In May of 2024, the Connecticut Insurance Department filed a petition for rehabilitation, determining that PHL was in a hazardous condition to policyholders and creditors and could no longer continue as a going concern. In connection with that rehabilitation, they sought and approved a moratorium order, which limited people's ability to access cash from certain policies or get any benefits in excess of the moratorium limit, which was set at $300,000 per policyholder. The rehabilitator wrote to the court and said rehabilitation is not feasible. All of the blocks of business are seriously impaired. Therefore, we're going to transition from rehabilitation and present the court with a proposed plan of liquidation at some point in the future after triggering Guarantee Association coverage. So they're not going to submit a plan of rehabilitation despite telling the court and policyholders that was the plan. They're going to coordinate with the Guarantee Associations through an organization known as NOLGA to come up with a proposed liquidation plan. Well, it came as quite a surprise, and the notice to the court was filed on New Year's Eve, and the modification to the rehabilitation order was issued on Christmas Eve. So it really came as a surprise to people that they were moving away from the plan to propose a rehabilitation. I think the real challenge is they did a lot of shady things involving captive reinsurance companies, and they shuffled around liabilities to make it look like PHL was in better shape than they really were. Once they got into the rehabilitation and they disallowed certain transactions, their losses went from negative 800 million to negative 2.2 billion. Now, those losses didn't happen overnight. They were just recognized because those captive reinsurance transactions were never real. They were always just sham transactions designed to make PHL look better than they actually were. The way I see the rehabilitation unfolding, they're going to divide policyholders into two groups. One will be the under the cap policyholders, and that'll be people whose claims are $300,000 or less. Those people will be fully protected by a combination of assets remaining in the estate and Guarantee Association contributions. Then they're going to have another class of policyholders that they will label the over the cap policyholders. And those policyholders are most at risk. So the more exposure that you have in excess of the $300,000 cap limit, the more at risk you are. And for people who have life insurance policies covering the lives of loved ones, they face very big reductions if the benefit is over $300,000. So non-policyholders should care because this failure is going to cost everybody. Many of these policyholders are at ages where they can't get replacement insurance, families who are counting on large benefits to preserve their family legacies. It's going to hurt everybody because they're going to have to come up with a way to make these folks whole. From the policyholder standpoint, it's just a complete breach of trust. This whole process is undermining trust and confidence in the life insurance industry. When families purchase life insurance or individuals buy annuity contracts for retirement purposes, they're putting their trust that the insurance company will be there to make good on those payments when they need the money or their family needs the money. Allowing this to happen in such a short period of time is unconscionable, and it was preventable because Nassau was only created in 2015. They took over PHL in 2016. They made all sorts of promises about how they were going to make the company more solvent, and yet all they did was strip out all the good assets and leave the PHL policyholders high and dry. These people, in some cases, paid in millions of dollars. They kept their part of the bargain so others can use the money to buy mansions and fancy cars and all the rest. And that's not what insurance is supposed to be all about. What I'd recommend retirees do is look primarily to mutuals who are not publicly traded. Companies like Northwestern Mutual, New York Life Insurance Company. These companies distribute money and are owned by policyholders. The companies that are owned by shareholders, they have a competing interest, and that is delivering benefits for their shareholders. Sometimes that's inconsistent with protecting the policyholders. And the only other thing is I would support any legislative efforts to bring more transparency and accountability to the life insurance industry. What PHL teaches us is that things are not always as they appear to be. There needs to be more transparency and accountability when it comes to something as important as life insurance and as important as an annuity contract. Those are promises that people rely on for themselves, for their spouses, and for their families. And it's too important to leave that in the hands of private equity. That's something that needs real regulatory oversight and real transparency and accountability.